Greetings! It is I, Tantus Narraman, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! Yes, it is time to discuss more tabletop. And today we're diving into the world of darkness once more. I hope you enjoyed joining us for that. Yes, as usual, I do these little things where I stream live on Twitch. If you're joining me live on Twitch, hi! Twitch chat's over to the side there. You can say hi yourself. It's a pretty quiet chat nowadays. But if you are watching this on YouTube, which most of you tend to do, hey YouTube, welcome. Anyway, we'll give all those shout-outs in the end. But today, whether joining me live or on YouTube, today's question is, because I do like something for the comments, is, have you played Kitsune? Because that's, yes, what we're talking about today. Kitsune, one of the changing breeds in Werewolf The Apocalypse, and the youngest of the changing breeds. So, why don't we just get started diving into information about them and, well, talking about them, because that's usually what we do around here, a lot of just talk about this stuff and go over things. And where I love to start out with most of the time is books that you'd use. Hey! There are 3 books to reference, one that introduces them, one that I think is really good, and one that is okay. So this is the book that introduces Kitsune. Cairns, Places of Power. It's an older book. If you want to get the introduction to Kitsune and their origins within World of Darkness, is the place to look. Other sources, of course, are Hangeyoke Shapeshifters of the East. This was a revised World of Darkness book that it introduced all the various shape changers in the East, and in particular this really dove into Kitsune because they are a primarily Eastern-based shape changer. This provides some decent information and background and stuff like that, but the book I would recommend the most would, of course, be the Changing Breeds book. I gotta be honest, when I was doing research for this, I talk about how I use the White Wolf Wikipedia, and then I combine it with a number of books. The 2 books I really referenced mostly were the Hangeyoke book and the Changing Breed books, which I have both PDFs of. The Changing Breed ones is really good. So we're going to be talking about information from the Changing Breed book and the Wikipedia very heavily today. So, I mean, that's the thing is, it's a very good source. It really is. And that's why I think this is the one I recommend most out of all if you want to deal with diving into Kitsune more than anything. Anyway, let's talk about them and show off their nice symbol here. So, Kitsune. They are a Pharaoh, a changing breed. They're only found in the Middle Kingdom, aka Eastern Hemisphere, aka Asia. They live mostly in China and Japan. The animal form is a fox, pretty obvious, they're Werefoxes. And they do serve an important role in the Emerald Courts of the Green Mother, one that is actually very similar to the Ragabash and Gara Society. They rarely, if ever, do venture outside of Asia. And 2 big important facts about them were they were never the target of the War of Rage, and they didn't exist before the War of Shade. Let's talk about these 2 wars briefly because you should understand them. The War of Rage was the Garu's purge of a lot of other changing breeds. Their war against them that they were basically driven to. Some say that it was a really great idea still. Most of them say, whatever, it happened. A bunch of them do say it was a mistake. That was the entire Garu versus the rest of changing breeds. A lot of stuff happened with that. The War of Shame, on the other hand, is a very similar war, and one that happened in the East. So, it was very much sort of like the War of Rage, but happened within the territory of the Emerald Court. And a lot of things happened during that time period. So, anyway. They try to teach lessons through tricks. And they were created with the last of the strength of the Emerald Mother, and cannot heal how other shape changers can. They cannot cause delirium in humans, and they were never part of the Impergian. They are affected by silver just as other breeds with rage. However, they aren't able to assume any frenzy except for Fox Frenzy, which is, of course, the frenzy based upon fear. So, let's talk a little bit about them, because their creation is dated back to effectively after the War of Shame. There's a huge storyline which I could dive into discussing the mythological creation of Kitsune. And it is a very detailed one that involves the War of Shame, the first goddess, and by Mansi, the white-faced one, who was born like any other fox, but was smarter, faster, more nimble than any other king, had great destiny, and basically was like the first of the Kitsune. And that's the basically way to talk about it. Could hear the spirit of the voices, cunning and wise, you know, connected with the first mother, was granted abilities, joined the Emerald Court, etc., etc. There's a lot of legend based around the entire thing that, look, I'm not gonna be too dishonest. It's good lore, but it's like a couple pages of lore that we're not gonna completely dive into. We're gonna kind of skate over a little bit. But basically, they trace back to this by Miaxi, who's brought by Luna before Gaia to receive a duty after the fox had created havoc on Earth in her jests. By Maxi tricked her way out of obligation, basically saying other of Gaia's children have adequate enough duties and she is not needed. Gaia was pissed off, but Luna soothed her, and so they gave the fox shapeshifter 3 promises. In return for their service, the fox people would become the best at something someday. She would protect them through the 6th age and release them through their servitude in the 12th age, when the wheeled ages come full circle. So that's a funky way of saying, basically, that they serve the mother, first goddess and stuff, but they also further their own goals. And they don't fear the 6th age because they know that Gaia didn't say, like, you know, help them survive, but basically they're free from their obligations afterwards. So, yeah. So with Luna's blessings, they've acted as assassins of corrupted authorities in mortal society, court wizards, and thieves to protect the heavenly mandate. They have no Western counterpart to identify with. Most of them see themselves as part of the Hengayoki first and members of their breed second. Though there are many that eschew joining the Beast Courts directly. So the thing is, the Hengayoki are the shape changers of the Beast Courts. They're the members of the, basically, coalition of shape changers in the East. They see themselves as members of that first. That's an important way of thinking how Kitsune think. And then it's, I'm a Kitsune second. Like a lot of unfortunate things that happen in the world of darkness, they do suffer from loss of kin. Pelts, magical properties of their bones, means that they are hunted by humans a lot. And human kinfolk honestly suffer through harsh political regimes, oppressive economic mandates. They're not really always in great positions either. So both foxes and humans of the Kitsune suffer. So, in present day, still there is both fear and reverence of magical foxes in a lot of places. Like the Inari and other Kitsune fox gods or goddesses still use. So they're kind of still behind the scenes, manipulating things for the first class's benefits, still to this day. So yeah, Kitsune are very much so a Eastern child. Like China, Japan, Korea, where they originated from, are where they have their strengths. Now granted, this doesn't mean in other areas of the Pacific. And in Asia, you will find Kitsune. They have had some spread, but these are the 3 locations where they are strongest, and honestly, you know, again, all of them still believe that they are Hengayoki. And that's a very important thing. And they do oftentimes work as good ambassadors to others or members of the Beast Course and things like that. So they do have good bit of use for that. Use? If we want to talk about how well or not well Kitsune are organized together, switch between pages. They don't really have huge amounts of organization. That is a thing to actually note about them. That they don't have things like the large cairns and moots of a lot of other changing rooms. Basically, when it's court or an actual, like, moot, you might join them together, but they do form basically small numbers of groups. 1, 2, 4. Those are the kind of groups they do. 1 does a lot of stuff. 2 can function well together. Basically, yin and yang almost. And then there's 4. That basically, if there's 1 for each path, they form a perfect team. Perfect set. So that's the kind of way that Kitsune work together. 1 on their own, 2 that balance each other out, or 1 for each of the 4 paths that they follow. We'll talk about the paths in a little bit here. And that gives them a lot of strength and control. So it's rare for anything larger than that to meet together. Individuals have little time for big moots and stuff, for meetings, or even saying hi to their own kind. Many of them have many enemies, and large gatherings would make them easy targets for their enemies. So when they do assemble, though, their brief and very highly important topics are heard and resolved quickly. So it's basically like, if you're going to have a large meeting of Kitsune, it's sort of like, okay, something really important happened. Let's talk about it, make a decision. Great, we made a decision. Everybody bye. And that's even that's for their scope, too. Most of the time, it's just more sufficient to pass along from fox to fox that, you know, it just spreads that way. And okay. Had a little hiccup there, technical issues. I hope that we didn't lose a bunch of stuff we were talking about there. I don't know. I don't know where we cut off. So I'm just going to rehash what we talked about. Sorry if there's a rehash there. Organizations. I was talking about them. They appear in groups of 1, 2, or 4. 1, because they do their own thing. 2, because it's like yin and yang. 4, because they can have 1 of each path for their duality. Sometimes they do appear in larger numbers. They don't see that as very important things. Many of them have many enemies. It's usually very important information that has to be heard. A problem has to be resolved. That is a basically Kitsune threat kind of thing. Doesn't happen very often. Very few times it's like that. Most of the time they travel word from fox to fox, basically spreading it to your neighbors, spreading it along that way, and eventually that information passes between everybody in less than a week. Cool! There we go. A little bit of hiccup there. I love technical hiccups. So sorry if there was some repeating that information. You know, technical hiccups, they happen. Let's move on though and talk about some more things. Let's talk about the, of course, breeds. Because there are 3 breeds of Kitsune. They're born from 1 or both of their parents. Okay, so the thing is, when a Kitsune is born, 1 or both their parents die shortly after its birth. Okay, so what... Kitsune have 3 breeds. They are Roko, Koji, or Shinju. So, when a Kitsune born, effectively, one or both of its parents may die shortly after its birth. So something like a Shinju, which is a Kitsune born, is very rare and precious. A non-Kitsune parent has only a 1 in 10 chance of surviving the experience. There's also a 1 in 10 chance that a Kitsune parent may die, either instead of or along with their mate. Roko is the name for fox-born Kitsune. None are reported in non-Asian countries with fox population. Kojin is the name of the human-born Kitsune, and Shinju, of course, the metis, basically, the Kitsune-born Kitsune. They're neither deformed nor sterile. They only have a 10% of all Kitsune. So only 10% of Kitsune to Kitsune offspring are Shinju, rather than normal human or fox kinfolk. And again, one of the parents is likely to die if a Shinju is born. They grow up in the courts, and they typically become arrogant and perfectionistic. So that's important news about them. We talk about the needs of Kitsune. So yeah. There is a chance that both can beat the odds, but normally, if both parents beat the odds, usually a close friend or family member of the parents or someone related to the household passes away. So that's a Kojin or Roko. So basically, yeah, both parents have a chance of surviving, but, you know, it's usually your non-Kitsune parent first, followed by the other one, and there's an empathic link, and some may die instead or along with it. Because there's an equal chance of both of them dying. So basically, the non-Kitsune parent has a 1 in 10 chance of surviving. The Kitsune parent, in a normal relationship, has a 1 in 10 chance of dying. The other one is 1 in 10 of surviving. So so it's sort of like Kitsune less likely to pass away than the non-Kitsune parent, but again, both can pass away. Or neither, and then if they beat the odds, then someone else does. And then Shinju each has a 50% chance of surviving. And again, if both of them survive the Shinju's birth, a close associate, friend, or family member passes away still. So, if you are a Kitsune that has a child with another Kitsune, the child will either favor the normal lineage of one of your parents and not become a shifter, or become a Kitsune. So there's this death part of, unfortunately, Kitsune having children. Let's talk about their paths. And I'll move the image along here. Now we kind of talked about that. Also a little bit of sadness in the way that Kitsune work. It's unfortunate. The system's just not being happy today. Hopefully we can keep up everything and not crash a bunch of stuff again. Oh, I only hope. Let's talk about their paths. The path of Kitsune constitute a profession or some kind of sacred calling. They're not determined by sun, moon, or Kitsune's times of birth, but are chosen by each one as they gain their first rank. Each is aligned to blending of two primary elements as a singular element in and of itself. There's Eiji, the Path of the Warrior, assigned to Lava, the way of Earth and Fire. Doshi, the Path of the Sorcerer, aligned to Lightning by Air and Fire. Gukutsushi, the Path of the Illusionist, aligned by Fog, Water, and Air. And Kararibi, the Path of Storyteller, aligned by Clay, Earth, and Water. So yeah. The Kararibi are the builders and doers. They basically make things that aid other of the nine tails of the Kitsune. They're in contrast to the Doshi or Eiji that practice very destructive paths. They love knowledge, crafting things, and like things like poetry and stuff like that very much time, and collecting lore stories and stuff like that. Lore stories, weaving them together in a tapestry of information. The Gukutushi, again, they are dreamweavers. It's very difficult to understand from outsiders. It's, again, combining the way of the trickster, illusion, and the physical role of a healer. So, yeah, that's actually kind of like an interesting juxtaposition between those two ends. They bring solace to the suffering and take delight in deceiving those that prove needful of such tricks. They have very less physical skills than any of the other paths, but have very powerful mind-bending skills. The Doshi, a sorcerer's element is lightning, of course. Their master is magic and spirit communication. Their path is one of shadow, with that little hint of Yomi within them. And they can detect as worm-painted, if you're talking on the ends of werewolf. They basically, evil itself is a powerful weapon against evil, and enslave beings or use magic thought to be tainted as a necessary for the greater good. So that's their kind of way of doing things, the Doshi. And of course the Eiji, the warriors, as we were talking about them. Their holy warriors are Sohei. They consider some surgeons cutting away cancers that threaten the Emerald Mother. They're not raging beasts. They have a great respect for life, even as they take it. And they go out of their way to protect innocence, to right wrongdoings against the just and good. When someone pollutes the world, they find it difficult to perform a neat and swift execution. They kill Bakemono, Craves, Kwaijin, or Banes, without thought or emotion. So, that's a little bit more on each of the paths. Let's talk about the forms that Kitsune may take. Forms. So, they have 5 different forms, like the Garu. All of their forms, other than Hitogata, which is their normal human form, show 1 tail. And all Kitsune gain another while advancing their rank to a maximum of 9. Only Bai Minx has ever manifested 9 tails. In any other form, Kitsune may manifest any number of tails up to the maximum they possess by making a Gnosis roll against the local gauntlet. Once they manifest, they can hide them in a similar fashion. So there is Hitogata, the regular human, Sambu Henge, the near human, Koto, a hybrid between fox and human, Chuko, wolf-sized fox, and a Kyubi, a regular fox. So if you are Hitogata is basically indistinguishable from humans. Might look a little mischievous, but basically that. The Sambu Henge are rarely taken other than situations that require humor or comical appearance. They're slightly more athletic and nimbler than the Hitogata form, but not enough to significantly be different. Basically, they're kind of an amusing form by that, like, Some use this form to play jokes on other foxes. Roko kits may assume the form that are learning to walk in human form. So if you are born to foxes, you might use this form as a way to basically start learning to walk, while still having a little bit of a body shape that you know. Of course, Koto is only an inch or two taller than Hitogata or Sambuhenge forms. It doesn't really add bulk to Kitsune. They're Krynos form, their middle form. But the physical changes are quite noticeable. The head's fully fox, though the eyes still retain human intelligence. Body's covered in fox fur, vulpine digigrade knees, obvious foxtail. Feet are paw-like, hands tipped with claws. They retain fingers and thumbs. They don't project delirium, and they don't assume Koto form unless they are certain of their privacy. They assume this for courtly affairs, impress visitors, or just for the comfort of having fur. So yeah. Okay, the Juku, the wolf-sized fox, it's suited for travel, has a greater endurance than QB. And they have a great amount of manual dexterity with their mouth in this form. So some learn to hold daggers with their mouths and fight in the Juku form. And of course, QB is just basically an ordinary fox. Most have a standard red pelt. There are some that resemble gray foxes in coloration. There are legends that speak of Arctic or sand werefoxes, though none have been present in the Emerald Court in centuries. And would be looked on with wonder and suspicion from the Eastern distance. So that is the basics of Kitsune forms. Oh, hey, we've been talking really great about, Kitsune. Let's talk about rites, gifts, rituals, and some abilities that Kitsune have. And that is just really cool looking there, and I wanted to share that picture. I'm not going to lie. So let's start, before we get into the gifts and rituals a little bit more, let's talk about some of the traits of being a Kitsune. Manually, you all start with a 5 willpower. That's the basic willpower for Kitsune. That's an important part about that. Path determines rage, and their initial Gnosis score comes from their breed. But that willpower boost is a big thing. Again, we talked about their Krynos, their Koto form doesn't include the delirium. They enter Umbra as easy as Garu. They have magical strength and versatility, and they're able to learn potent gifts, and can easily learn gifts of other changing breeds as well, as long as they have a teacher for that gift. And so the experience is cost for same for non-breed auspice tribal gifts. So that's a really important part about them, is they have a versatility a lot of others don't. So, they heal damage just like normal mortals. All non-bashing damage is counted as lethal, making sure that they avoid combat as much as possible. But they do have a lot of healing gifts, and it's also easier for them to heal with healing gifts. They also still soak damage at the usual high difficulty rate from any aggravated sources, such as Equation's teeth and claws, in the same manner as a Gaur. So they still soak aggravated or heal, or, but the thing is, they don't heal normally. They have to have gifts to heal. So they do receive the calling of Luna as children of Imanics. So they have a difficulty 8 trouble to soak damage from silver. I talked about that. Any damage not soaked is lethal. Otherwise, it affects them just like Gaur. So that is a difference also. It is difficult for them to soak damage from silver, but it is lethal damage. Not aggravated. They do receive a extra dot in dexterity for free during character creation to help them with their lack of regenerative abilities. And they cannot botch athletics rolls to dodge in combat. And this is the W20, if they change a little bit how they dodge and works and move missions. That's that. And their teeth do aggravated damage in Koto and Juko form. Now, here's another big thing about them. Longevity. They have the advantage of a long lifespan. Whenever Kitsune goes up in a rank, except when advancing to Yakin, their potential lifespan doubles. Kitsune elders are quite venerable, even though the breed is quite young. With each rise in rank, they get another tail. A fox with 9 tails, Minix for one example, for all intents and purpose is immortal. And, you know, their lack of tails or having tails might be hidden or covered up with lies either way, you know. And most of the time the tails are not visible. So. Anyway, the foxes do not subscribe to Henge Way of the Emerald virtue value. They basically value chi, cunning, toko, honor, kagia, glory, renown. So they do not subscribe to the Henge Way of the Emerald virtue. That's a weird sentence. I'm trying to explain that one, but we'll get rid of that one for now. So, Kitsune are versed in the sense and flow of chi, both yin and yang, in the world. They're taught by spirits of the Middle Kingdom. They can become invisible through the moon dance as long as there is no moonlight touching them. They can use ghost speak with inhabitants of the Yang world, and easily blend into the crowd. They can create fake, very lifelike illusions, and most are gifted to abandon the body and possess that of someone else. They adore magic, which they call Juho, and any trick is better with a gift thrown in. Success is sweeter when elders offer lessons as reward, and rank is more prized because of new powers Skaia's grant with each tale. Since the last few millennia, foxes coast spirits to grant them a wide array of tricks. Picked up hedge magic, reinvented an entire branch of witchcraft, and stolen toys with and abandoned the Bastet's gift swapping room. One thing all Kitsune can learn through other Kitsune is known as Jufu paper magic. By trapping kami within paper, they can make them virtually do anything. Again, I would definitely check out the Changing Breeds W20 book if you want a good chunk of gifts and rights that are particularly Kitsune. They have a pretty good selection of them. That some of them are unique there, others are sources. I definitely recommend checking them out. And, you know, things like they have the properties of conduct and rights of the crossroad as rates. Whew. All right. So, we are not quite done with Kitsune. Let's talk about culture of Kitsune a little bit here. So we kind of talked about seamless. So again, the system of renown, this talks about it a little better than my other source here, on the surface is very similar to that of a lot of other changing breeds. Basically, they see renown differently than a lot of others. There's not as much important to them. Higher ranking Kitsune are respected and adored for the power they wield as sorcerers they have, less than the virtues that got them to that. So they do observe the virtues of chi, basically cunning, kagiyaki, glory, toko, honor. It's just the fact that the processes of earning and gaining those is much more for gaining the higher rank and the respect of that rank rather than the respect of gaining those things. And they do follow the laws of heaven, which are given by Nyanx, by Luna. These heavenly mandates are laws of Kitsune society. It's 4 obligations, 4 bans, and an absolution. So, the commands. I command you to destroy that which harms Gaia. I command you to aid your brothers, your sisters, and that which serves Gaia. I command you to revere your mother, myself, your aunts, your uncles, and our favored servants. I command you to keep your duty first in your heart, and to listen to my teachings. The bans are, I forbid you to exterminate the humans. I forbid you to make war on your brother and sisters. I forbid you to break your word. I forbid you to commit suicide for reasons of honor. And then the absolution is, I free you from anything else necessary to achieve our goals. That's a heck of a set of commandments to go by. Anyway, and to note, just to note, as an important part of Kitsune here is, the first Kitsune by Nyax, Naxi, is still, I'm probably butchering that name, I'm gonna be honest, is technically still alive. Believed to be dead, in truth, she was taken bodily back to heaven by Prince Inari. She serves in Luna's court and guides her people in dreams and visions. So she exists within Luna's court, even after all her things she did within the mortal realms. Anyway, there's like stories behind her too, which is very interesting to look into more. You really want to. So yes, as a little follow-up for some other trivias and stuff to talk about, with Kitsune, nice and kindness form, Grr, Snarl. So yes, they were introduced in the cairns of places of power, which I can talk about, but they were really portrayed very differently in that original version of them. So if you want to look at that, that's more historical. I did mention that book at the beginning of it. They were servants of the Worm of Balance, fighting against the Weaver and Wild, unaffiliated with any larger shapeshifting community. Eventually, and the thing is, they were also mentioned but not named in the Werewolf The Apocalypse rulebook. Both the Shadow Lords and Glasswalkers were looking at the Black Spiral Dancers and transforming foxes of Japan. They were also discussed as enemies of the Bushi and Dark Alliance's Vancouver, which, again, is, you know, we're diving deep into the ancient lore, introducing the Kitsune. It wasn't really until the Hangayoke book that we really get into what they are and how they're defined a lot, and eventually into W20. And they are named after the Kitsune of Japan. Other versions are called Huri Ying or Chuehu in China. I'm probably butchering that. Kumiho in Korea. There's the Vietnam one, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna try this one because I apologize. I would butcher it heavily, and I would really just insult anybody from Vietnam. I probably did really bad on the Chinese and Korean pronunciations. This one, maybe we can. Is there a Google like translates or something? I could try this. Oh, we're not doing it today, man. We're not doing it today. It's fun. But there's also a legend of transforming foxes in things like Germany or Celtic, with the Germany having the fox strap. Maybe there could be points for a story of perhaps a Kitsune that traveled that far. Or maybe even something of them far off to the east. Remember, we talked about in the rare forms of their fur, there was a possibility, as rare and unusual as it was, for something other than the two main appearances. The possibility of something from like a brain work, desert fox, or something like that. Man, my brain just sometimes doesn't say words well. So yes, the possibility of other foxes and other appearances exists. But I think that hits us the end of Kitsune for today. This is an interesting one. I do really like Kitsune as a changing breed and as a concept. certainly your majority of your werewolf games, really, it's hard to call out and have Kitsune. It's really hard to have them outside of Asia. Granted, not impossible, not unheard of, but it's a rarity, and usually for a good reason, or maybe, not. Certainly there are plenty of them that don't associate them with the Emerald Court and might see a purpose outside of that region. And certainly if you're having a werewolf adventure, or Werewolf The Apocalypse adventure, that involves other changing breeds, or particularly is in the East, you could easily have a Kitsune. So it's not like there could be characters for it, NPCs for it. There is a possibility of Kitsune in your adventures, and they are an interesting character, being a very uniquely Asian changing breed. And young. You have to think about that, is they are born after this War of Shame, and formed in the last days of the Fourth Age, which, again, I didn't really talk about it much, but the Fourth Age is supposed to be the beginning of human history. It's about 900 BCE. And that's the Fourth Age. And it ends somewhere, depending on if you're looking at the Faishin or the Ascetic Brotherhood, somewhere between 1250 CE to 17635, depending on who you're looking at. Depends on the actual age. But still, nonetheless, that means Kitsune developed and appeared alongside human civilization. At least the core of a lot of our civilization. Not to say we didn't have civilization or forms of it before then, but they are very, very young in comparison to all the other changing breeds. Very young. And it is an impressive thing that they have developed as well during this entire thing and have come to where they are. They are an interesting group that has done well for themselves. I guess that's a way to talk about it. They've found ways to develop themselves and find a place in certainly their world. And it's fun to learn about them, and if you would ever want to play a jack-of-all-trades character, honestly, that's the jack of all trades. They are the one that can learn a little bit of everything. They've got their love of learning and stuff, and certainly each of them has very interesting roles. If you wanted to be a warrior, you very well could have a good reason for leaving. Hey, you're on some kind of shamanic paladin quest to defeat evil outside of the East. Or maybe you're one of the ones looking for stories. Then you're traveling. Again, a lot of good reasons for them to travel, but they're very individual reasons. You're probably not going for any grand path, and honestly speaking, if you would run into whatever the storyline is, it's probably not why you're there. It's just sort of like you get caught up in something. That would be the storyline if you're like, let's say, doing something in the US and you have your Kitsune character there. I just ran into something and had to deal with it. I like the Kitsune. I think they're interesting. I think they're unique. And I think they fit in a very different way than a lot of other changing breeds. Because they have some of the baggage, certainly with the fact that there's a very good chance if you are born a Kitsune, one of your parents is going to die. Whether it's your Kitsune or your non-Kitsune parent, one of them is most likely to die. Very good chances of it. And that's just sad. That the birth of your birth, harkens death. It just, that's a sad thing. That's a powerful thing to think about. But again, like, as with a lot of things that have happened with other changing breeds and a lot of dark stories, terrible things that have happened over the ages, it's pretty tame in comparison. And not to say that there aren't decent stories out there, and good stories, but there's just a positivity, I think, that exists when you think about Kitsune and read about them a little bit, much more than, honestly, a lot of other changing breeds. And it's also a little bit less that seriousness. I don't know. Those are the kind of things I feel about when I talk about them. But, you know, each their own and how they feel about these ones. They're interesting. I hope you enjoyed learning about them. Again, I asked at the beginning. Hopefully now you can kind of continue with it. You have a Kitsune character you played or encountered Kitsune in any of their World of Darkness games, whether werewolf or otherwise. Let me know. Comments below. If you're watching this live on Twitch, thank you for joining me. A follow would be great. You know, that'd be big. Least amount I can do. That's all it is for this. Gives a little bit more leeway for the channel. If you're joining me on YouTube, and remember, it's Dracovin Empire. Hey, give a nice subscription. Ring the bell if you're already subscribed for some more things. Comment below, leave a like. These are great ways to support us, and they're pretty simple. All these things are very easy to support. Always check out the other side of things, too. If you're joining me live, hey, you're live. If you're already live, well, check out the YouTube side of things. There's plenty of stuff I've already done. I have social media stuff for checking me out. It's my twitter.com and my Discord. I usually just leave updates on schedules, things about stuff going on, random thoughts and stuff like that. That's a lot of my time doing it. I'm a little bit more active on my Discord than on Twitter if I do this stuff. That's all for today. I think that's a good amount for there. I think we chatted about our topic. I hope you learned a lot. And you know what? Everyone out there, I hope you have a great rest of your day. You want to see more tabletop stuff? It's up on YouTube throughout the week. Usually a couple days after the Twitch side. Twitch side, I live stream it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Friday or Saturdays. Tuesdays, Thursdays, early afternoon. Saturdays, usually late morning into noonish time period, depending on life schedule. World of Darkness stuff tends to be on Saturdays. I'm not saying that's usually my day for doing it. And then I give a couple other tabletop-related stuff that goes up all over them. A live show, usually on Wednesday evenings right now, and of course, a discussion show on Saturday evenings. Check all those out. I hope you have a good day. I say to all of you out there, a wonderful and wholesome farewell for now, and until next time.